pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next regular meeting is scheduled. Speak to the microphone, Dan. The next scheduled meeting is scheduled for Friday, September 27th, 2019, at 9 a.m. in the Community Center, 3600 Edgewater Drive, Sebring, Florida. Please silence or turn off your cell phones. Consent agenda. The minutes of the Board of Supervisors regular meeting held Friday, August 23rd, 2019. Treasurer's report and golf financials, July 31st, 2019.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Not called question, Chrissy?
No.
Public comment. Okay, call the question.
Supervisor Stiegel?
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Supervisor Hotelling?
Yes.
Action agenda. Public hearing, resolution number 2019-09-13-32. A resolution of the Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to establish utility rates for fiscal year 2020 and providing an effective date. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Good morning, Supervisors. So just to recap, this water utility rate proposal does include the $11 water base rate increase from $10.25 to $11, and the sewer base rate increase from $18.50 to $22 for a total monthly base fee of $33. There are some other small items that we've added to this rate schedule. You can see right under deposits, we've changed the two categories for commercial tenants. Anyone with a meter size over 2 inches, we're going to charge them a deposit of 1.5 times their average bill. And then we've increased the Tanglewood deposit to $150 to make them $150 consistent across the board. So we've made that change, and we've added on page 2 3 new categories of charges that'll apply if equipment is broken out in the field for residents. So inside of every residential meter box, there's an MTU unit, which is a cylinder that kind of gives us a cell phone signal and gives us the read on a monthly basis. We've run into situations where people are pulling in trailers or riding their truck through the through the yard, or cutting grass, hitting the box, breaking it, and breaking that piece of equipment, and there's no warranty on that, so we turn around and just charge them the flat cost of replacing that unit. There's no markup, which is a $150 fee. The electrical panel box on the back of the home says go out occasionally. We go back there and replace that. That's a $400 cost for a full replacement. And then just doing minor repairs, which is switching out breakers and whatnot, just fixing those, are $75 for those one-time repairs. So those are the only changes we have on this upcoming rate schedule change. All of these changes are included in the tentative budget adoption, so we've accounted for all those rate increases. So it is included in the budget for this upcoming fiscal year.
Comments? Just as an aside, I really appreciated the YouTube video that you guys did. I knew that was you talking behind whoever was standing out there. Before Hurricane Dorian, I don't think most people understand that or understood that if they read it. I mean, if they listen to that, they should now.
Yeah, I think we'll try and do that more often, try and do some more communicative features to the residents to just give them an idea of how that unit works. I know that sometimes it gets confusing between gravity systems and low pressure, how much usage is available. And I know during those times of stress, we really want them to understand you really need to do your best to conserve and possibly get a generator hookup to run that system so you don't run into those problems and backups. And
right. Because
we're scrambling to take care of the district at that time, so there's not much we can do on our part to come assist you during that storm, power outages. So
I would assume once you set that up where you can hook a generator to it, then you're good to go from now on.
That's it, yeah.
All you got to do is do
simple
it.
Electrical can just put in a plug,
right.
Plug your generator right into it, run it for 20, 30 minutes, and it pumps it right back down. So.
Okay. Public comment? Chrissy?
Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Supervisor Hoteling?
Yes.
Supervisor Stiegel?
Yes. Public hearing resolution number 2019-09/13-33, a resolution of the Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to establish permit fees for fiscal year 2020 and providing an effective date. Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
So this also is just a continuation from the last discussion for the last two meetings. Biggest change, we've updated a few charges from driveway connections, used to be $125. They're going to $250 per connection. Part of the permit process, we've included the 30% front yard requirement. We do have a renewal fee this year that we're proposing in this for $500 after a year if it's not completed. Boring services and extensions, and then we really did a revamp on the water meter setting fee, connection fees for water and sewer. And those took place mostly in 1-inch through 6-inch charges. The 3/4 meter fees stayed the same for residential units and the majority of our commercial. So we've notified a lot of our contractors. They're all aware. So we feel like we're in a good place moving forward.
Further discussion?
Effective date will be October 1st.
Okay.
No, other than, you said the 30%. What, I lost.
So
you.
last board meeting we discussed, there's a code enforcement provision that restricts prepared surfaces for driveways to not exceed 30% of your front yard. So
Yeah,
anyone that,
okay.
any contractors that want a double driveway or a circular driveway will need to come to the board for a variance at that
Well,
time.
that's why I asked, because how did we do it the last time? I mean, how did that sneak through that guy did his whole driveway? He's got 1% yard.
So once again, I tried to explain it last time. So it was a code enforcement provision. It was not a new construction provision. There was nothing in the new construction that prohibited them from doing that. In the permit process, there was nothing. There was no rule. Code enforcement, on the other hand, when we ran into this a lot, was people preparing extra prepared surfaces with mulch or gravel. And at that point, they should have been notified, come to the district office, let's do a calculation, pull a permit, and go through that process. So now this kind of reconciles that and adds it to the construction permit for driveways.
Did we do something about that? I mean, did we at least tell the guy that he was wrong?
Yeah. So going forward, we will address it. Code enforcement now knows as well if they see anyone trying to prepare a new surface or create a new parking space, then they need to come see us, and we need to do a calculation.
Well, I drive around a lot, and I drove around for a month and saw those pavers there, but I had no idea he was going to do that. I mean,
Yeah. We didn't know either. That's one of those things out in the field that there was nothing requiring him to come in and pull a permit, but it should have been a code enforcement citation or notification saying, hey, something looks a little out of whack. Let's look a little bit further into this. So,
just so we're taking care of it.
yes,
Okay.
that should be the last one.
Public comment? Chrissy?
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Supervisor Hoteling?
Yes.
Supervisor Stiegel?
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Resolution number 2019-09/13-34, a resolution of the Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to establish and adopt a tentative budget for fiscal year 2020 based on the estimate of revenues and expenditures for the district's general, utility, and golf funds, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? I think we beat this dead horse
Yep.
long enough. If you want to go run through it.
I do have a question. What happens if we think we need to make a change to the budget as it is? We can still do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, we can agree to do this, I mean, as it is now, but if we have a conversation later that we think we need more money for something, we can make the changes.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's just a budget amendment, more or less. Anything you want to add, Omar?
Not necessarily. I think we've like I said, we talked about it at the same time. It's the same as the discussion we had before. Overall, it's about a $10 million operating revenue budget. We have about $9 million in expenditures, which gives us excess of $1 million for capital. And this budget includes $1.2 million in capital expenses, which we balance that with the $200,000 in reserve. So pretty straightforward on this one.
Do we have any idea how much we have to transfer out of this year to next year?
As carryovers,
Yeah. Ballpark.
it's going to depend largely on what the kitchen lanai project, what the final draws are here between now and September 30th. And we know we have Pro Pump. We weren't able to finish that project, so we're going to carry that over. But I have to go back and run some numbers. I can send you all a report.
How much have we paid on the kitchen so far? You know, because the whole thing's what, about $1 million bucks, right? Yeah. That we haven't covered.
Give me a few minutes and I'll pull it.
Okay.
Further discussion? Public comment? Chrissy?
Supervisor Hoteling?
Yes.
Supervisor Stiegel?
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Just that as an aside, basically this is taking $200,000 out of reserves. And that's only if we hit every number exactly right. We typically wind up with more income or fewer expenses. I would expect it to be pretty close to balanced. This is just kind of a way to get there. Okay, which I like, balanced budget.
Amen.
Resolution number 2019-09/13-35. A resolution of the Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to approve change order number 3 in the amount of $53,828 to the road maintenance contract with Excavation Point Incorporated.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
You want to go through that, Tanya?
Yes. Good morning, Supervisors. Drew Jones, our engineer with Holston, is here. We're recommending to go ahead and pave Orion Drive. Orion Drive is a road right off Ortega. So if you ever take the back entrance to Sun and Lake off of Schumacher, Orion is the road that you would make a right on into. It takes you all the way to the Hillgustat Middle School. The road condition level, I believe, I'll let Drew speak of that if we can speak of the condition levels of the road. We do have enough budget to go ahead and finish this project this year. As we mentioned, I believe, 6 months ago, we said we were going to look into seeing what we have left and try to finish this project. So we do have the funds. And the current rating level for that road, the assessment level is
I believe it was a 74. Yeah, 74. We did assess it when we were doing the rest of them. And the board kind of hinted that we wanted to look into spending what we could have left of the budget to do more road paving. So this pretty much uses the majority of that money. And it's going to take care of a road that gets used more of the visiting public when they're dropping off their kids and picking them up. So it will help aesthetics to outside visitors. So.
And that intersection is in bad shape as well.
Yeah,
So
the worst part is the intersection. The first few hundred feet are the worst part of that road. So
I'm assuming they're cutting the corner. Is that what's happening, or are we going to put anything in there to keep them from doing it again? Is my question.
I know we were going to widen it a little bit to make it a little bit easier turn. I don't know if I discussed with them specifically on adding the rumble strips in this location. I'll have to talk to them and see if they did add them. But the biggest thing is widening the road because it's a lot of, I guess it got narrow and a lot of it's been eaten away as they drove on it. So biggest thing is to improve it, get it back to standard. I
think the rumble strip would be a really good idea
okay.
on that right-hand turn off Ortega.
Okay.
We don't have the problem again. I mean, it's not so much for Sun and Lake residents, although some residents use it because their kids go to school there, but it looks pretty bad.
Yeah, I'll verify with them and see if they're including that or not, and we'll make sure it happens.
Okay. Further discussion? Questions?
I guess my only question is, why do we put it in next year's budget? Because we're only 2 weeks away from the end of the year, right? So this is going to, are you going to get this done in 2 weeks?
They're planning on, I just got word back from excavation, they are planning on finishing the drainage beginning of next week on Arduna. And they're wanting to do, our intent was to have them pave everything all at once so they wouldn't have to mobilize again. So they're planning on getting it done. It's going to be right at the end of the month, but they are planning on getting it done.
Okay.
Further discussion? Public comment?
Good morning, Bill. If I could track. Good morning, Bill Norcross, a resident. The pavement that I can see, I don't know if this is related to what the discussion of the topic is. Anyhow, the Pebble Beach paving was done very well. I have to compliment the company that did a much better job than I thought they did the last time. But the only problem is that I see that on some of these roads, intersections, whatever, there's a lot of drop-offs. Now, just for example, they just repaved Woods and Irons, and there's drop-offs, and eventually that's going to break. So I just suggest, if it could be done, kind of backfill a foot or so along those areas that are high, because it'll only erode, not this year, maybe next year or the year after. So please, I wish that would be taken into consideration. Take a look at the roads, the edges, so they don't break down and get problems with potholes again. Thank you.
I assume we could include that in future.
You mean some edge of pavement work?
What he's basically asking for is backfilling the edges.
We did a bit of that before they even paved, which I know we now have an inch and a half, whatever gap, our higher spot now. A lot of that was done internally, so we could probably just, as long as we have budget, we can do that internally. George can get his guys to do that. It shouldn't be an issue.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Further comments? Chrissy?
Supervisor Stiegel?
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Supervisor Hotelling?
Yes.
Resolution number 2019-09/13-36. A resolution of the Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District of Highlands County, Florida, modifying the Utility Renewal, Replacement, and Improvement Fund, better known as URIF, to a Capital Improvement Fund.
Motion to approve.
Second.
You want to handle that, Omar, or Tanya, or whatever?
Yeah, so just to highlight the major changes, for the most part, basically it's a name change. The function of the fund has been used for capital projects as a whole. The other major part of this piece is the funding application. So before it was a $12.10 per month per customer transfer that was automatically occurring regardless of income or net income or budget. This new resolution proposes that we establish that amount during the budget process. This year in the tentative budget, we have $175,000 going from the utility fund into the URIF, or now capital improvement fund, if approved. So those are the two major changes regarding this resolution.
And the current balance, I keep saying that, but it's about $3.2 million. Okay, so in the event that we would use those funds, it would be board approved.
Act like adults. Put what we need to into. Discussion? Further discussion? We kind of beat this around several times as well. Public comment? Chrissy?
Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Supervisor Hotelling?
Yes.
Supervisor Stiegel?
Yes. Item for discussion, ADA information recommendation for the website. Who's going to drive this? Omar?
So in the ADA arena, it seems to be a change in kind of how things were processed. Before, it was kind of physical ramps and bathrooms, and there was a big push on making sure those were accommodating for ADA compliance regulations. Now it's kind of shifted more towards the internet, app, website, arena. So we've been working internally on trying to see how to minimize and better address those ADA compliance issues. So we want to bring the board just to get your position on some of these major changes. 2 items that are required by ADA requirements are closed captioning for all audio transcription recordings. So every board meeting that's transcribed is required to have closed captioning. Currently, we do not provide closed captioning. So that could possibly be an issue if an ADA complaint were to come in. Our recommendation is to go ahead and add closed captioning. It's not an extremely expensive application to do that. There's different methods depending on how we want to apply it. If you want live streaming, on hand, on demand, as soon as we're talking, someone's transcribing, that's going to be a little bit more expensive. If we add in someone on demand after the fact and just a day after go back and have the system transcribe it, we review it, and then post those minutes, that'll be a little bit more inexpensive. So it just depends on how we want to go down that route. Something that I mentioned in my memo was verbatim. Currently verbatim is available to anyone in the public. They can go on and they can listen to the minutes word for word. We currently have Chrissy take the time to go through those minutes, retranscribe them, and kind of summarize them so they're not verbatim, which probably takes up, I'd say, 20, 30% of her work week when we have board meetings. So it's a significant portion of her overall duties to do that and make sure that they are correct. And so this will alleviate, adding closed captioning and having verbatim minutes will alleviate her to address some of these other ADA compliance issues with that relief. So we just want to get your position on, once again, we're not required by Florida statute to have audio minutes. I think it's a benefit that we give that to the residents of the district so they can tune in and hear what's going on here at the meetings, but it's at the board's discretion whether you want to keep that on the website for now, get rid of it, add closed captioning. So we just want your position on that one topic.
How accurate do we think machine transcription is?
So we've gotten, based on the quotes, on-demand computer transcription, they gave us a range between 80 to 90% accurate. That other 10%, we would still have Chrissy come behind the scenes, go through the minutes just to see if maybe it missed some keywords or numbers were wrong. We would still go through that process to try and ensure that to 95, 99% range. Yeah. So there would still be some work on our end to be done.
How easy is it for us to correct the machine transcription if it's wrong?
I would assume it's a text file or a Word file that's generating through that software. So it shouldn't be very difficult to go in there and retype it before we post and publish it on the website.
If I recall, the cost estimate wasn't significant to do it if it wasn't on demand. And I really don't see any reason that it should be on demand. No.
Typically the on demand or the live streaming is typically tailored to those that have video or streaming it on TV, kind of like the county. The county did a newspaper article where their software to include it live on demand was $40,000 because it's just more tailored, it's accurate, it's right away. But ours, because we take a couple of days to get it processed and get it on the website, isn't that significant cost.
And if we do move to closed captioning, I mean, we can still leave the audio on the website. That is an option.
As long as you do the closed captioning, you can if you don't.
Sir.
I mean, I know there are some people who listen to it. I can't imagine. But just in case we say something intelligent, I guess they're waiting for that. Discussion, Ray?
I'm for it. I think we can do it.
I met with Tanya this week, and she went over everything, and I'm in agreement. I just don't want to do stuff that we don't have to. Right. That's because this can keep coming and coming and coming.
Now the minutes will change. The minutes will be verbatim.
Yeah.
And so
be careful what you say.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah, me neither.
So we are making, I think this will be a nice addition to what we've already done. I don't know if you guys noticed, but on the webpage now, if you go, there's a new toolbar that we've implemented. It has a screen reader functionality. It lets you change contrast in case you have some sort of vision impairment, so you can make it lighter or darker. You can change the font size. So I think for anyone in the district that may need those tools, it's nice that we're adding that at an inexpensive cost to them.
Are we going to talk about all the other documents that we were either?
Yeah, so that's part 2 of this. Second is document retention and remediation. Currently, we really don't have a set policy on document retention for the website. So currently, it's just we're accumulating and storing years and years worth of documents and PDF files with no end. There's no time to go ahead and take it off or shut it down. So I just wanted to give you guys get your perspective on how long you think some of these things should remain on there, whether they should remain on there at all. Maybe we should minimize some of the information as a whole. Currently, if there's something that's not on the website and you request it from the district, you always have the ability to go do a public records request through Chrissy. And if it's something that's readily accessible, there's no cost. We turn around and give it right to you at no cost. If it's something that needs to be compiled, it's a spreadsheet, and there may be some labor charges, but all this information will always still be available through a public records request. So, one example is the monthly reports. Currently in the treasurer's report, we're putting online our GL statements, our check register. That's probably 60 pages worth of financial data. Once again, how many residents are really looking through that? I think that's something that we may consider. We'll always put the summary pages online. We'll always put the treasury report cover page. If someone wants to see the check register, they can always, once again, email us. We'll send it to you. If you want to be every month, we can go ahead and email it to you every month to make sure you get it. But to have it on the website just taking up storage and space is something we need to consider.
Well, it's more than that. If you leave it on there, you have to have the ADA compliant stuff. Correct. So I don't think we have any other real choice other than I'd say we should go to what's required, and that's it. I don't know.
And that's what I told Tanya, and this is what I was talking about. Just do what's required. We can't get in trouble. And
So I don't agree with that.
so that's what I would recommend.
I think you have to be selective. I go back. Board agendas and packets 1 year. Annual budgets 2 years.
That's what's required.
Correct.
I understand that. I can see that it says required. I'm good at that. But I go back, I use that stuff, and I go back further than that just to do research for these meetings. So for me to have to call Chrissy, I'm being a little, maybe nobody else does this, but for me to have to call Chrissy and have her pull up all this stuff every meeting. Now, I agree with staff reports. There's certain things on here I can see going to the minimum, but I think just to selectively say across the board.
And we can go down each topic and then get a consensus that way if you guys want to go down that route. I think, once again, maybe
let me ask you this. If somebody who's not on the board wants to see this information, they'll have to go through Chrissy if it's not there, correct?
If it's older than what's required.
Yep.
Once again, it goes back to the point. Maybe you're a numbers guy and you're going back and looking at the financial report for 2014. How many residents are doing that, and is it worth the liability of leaving it on the website? Those are the two things we have to balance.
But you're shutting out the residents again.
In our opinion, board agendas and package are probably 1 year's probably a little bit slim. Maybe we can do 2 years and try and see what it would cost to get some of that remediated. Just to do that.
Are we doing this because of financial, or are we doing this because we're doing it?
We're doing this because of liability.
If you leave it on and we don't make it ADA accessible, in other words, vocalized for people who can't read, then we've got a potential lawsuit.
Correct.
And what is the problem with doing that?
Doing what?
Making it ADA compliant or whatever.
So I gave you a few examples of what the cost. So currently to remediate or make a PDF ADA compliant, companies are offering a $3.95 service per page. So if we're talking about a financial report that's 60 pages long, that's roughly 60 times 4, $240 per document. So it could add up pretty quickly the more we leave on. So that's the balancing act, is how much do we want to invest to have information readily available and have it in compliance.
I guess the second piece of it is if you request last year's whatever and she sends it to you, then you have it.
Correct.
Hard copy or email, and you have it from then on. It doesn't disappear. So you ask once and you got it.
And I think from my perspective, it's unfortunate that we have this expense to be able to make the information available.
Yeah.
I understand the ADA compliance because I've got people in my life that don't see very well. However, I think one of the things we could look at is changing it to the minimum requirements now so that we're only having to ADA compliant the required documents, but going forward we could look at keeping them on longer since we're already now going forward making all documents ADA compliant.
Correct, yeah. We're only talking about the history.
Right. So, I guess to your point, and we would agree with that, that would be definitely part one of this project is getting it into compliance now and then going forward, making all documents compatible so we don't have this. Would we still, at that point, would we still want to minimize or have a retention policy once everything's compliant, or we just want to leave 10 years worth of annual budgets on the website even if they are compliant? Do you really feel...
No, I mean, I think there's a happy medium. I'm not saying you have to keep 10 years worth of budgets, but I think you need more than 2.
Yeah.
I mean, why can't we go 5? I mean,
we could come up with...
Maybe I'm the only one that looks at this stuff back. I don't know.
Yeah.
If I'm the only guy, then screw it, go to required, and
I guess
I use it for research as well. 1 year is very
There's two
short.
issues here, though. One is, what do we go to now immediately and have to remediate what's already there that's not compliant? Going forward is another issue. I agree, 5 years, it doesn't really matter after this first project. So if we cut back to 2 and then
Raise it back
going
to 5
forward,
over
going
time.
to 5, yeah. As we get there, to me, that makes sense. But we could spend $100,000 redoing this thing pretty easy.
I can say this ADA transformation has been challenging, to say the least. You know, there's requirements, but there's no really checks and balances to make sure that it's compliant. So if I don't have that disability, how do I know that this screen reader, maybe it's missing a word, or maybe I created a PDF and I think it's, the headers are correct and the title is in the right position, in the right size, and the right font, but there's no checker to tell me, yes, this passed 99% ratio. There's nothing that tells me that. This is kind of just subjective to that one person who says, I tried to get this document, I couldn't get it. So going forward, it's going to be a challenge for us to see how we make all of our documents that are on the website PDF compatible or PDF ADA compliant. We're going to have to go down to very tailored templates that are pretty straightforward so we don't deviate from that and make it pretty clear cut. There's not going to be anything custom. There's not going to be a lot of colors. It's just the way the atmosphere is going in that direction.
Yeah, I can't even conceive of how you make a financial report audible and understandable.
It's going to be tricky. Once again, every table has to have a summary of description. So for Christy to be required to make Drew's engineering report PDF compatible is impossible. We're going to have to outsource every single one of those pages, every single financial report. So this is going to be a long-term project that we're going to have to pick and choose how we address and how we tackle this. This is just step one of let's narrow down what we want to keep and then see what the cost is involved to get there. So I know on the RFPs and RFQs you guys are saying go it's required, but that's not required at all. So we just want to make sure that.
And I guess that's where I was headed, is how much of the stuff we're putting on there is really required. I mean, we got to put every page that's in an agenda. I don't think so. There's a lot of information that we need to make our decisions that aren't necessarily germane to the public.
Correct.
So I really think you guys need to figure out what we got to do with our, I guess, sentiment. That's what you're asking for today.
Correct.
Do you have enough sentiment to know where to go?
Once again, we understand we want to use discretion. We want to make sure as much is available to every user on the website. So we're going to take that, and once again, budgets, I know that's something people look back at. So we're going to try and do what we can to keep, even if it's more than 2 years, to make that happen. And then we'll try and tailor the other ones.
So we just got to figure out what the cost is going to be to get as much as we can for as little as we can.
Correct.
And then the follow-up question on that is this, from what I'm reading here, is an ADA website compliance issue What about the emails that the district sends out? Do they need to be ADA compliant as well?
As far as I know, from what's been happening through litigation and our advice from our insurance broker, emails have not been an issue. If someone requests an email or does a public records request, I'm not sure how that would transpire. We may have to retype them and put them in Word, but there'd be a cost associated with doing that. It's not something that's readily available that we can just give them at their discretion. It's not a document that we create. It's an email format.
But at this point, it doesn't seem to be an issue.
At this point, that doesn't seem to be an issue.
Well, if I understood your memo correctly as well, it seems that the courts are starting to change their global approach to being, you have to have an interest. You can't just sue everybody for everything.
Correct, which is a good positive sign for us going forward.
The state of Florida finally stepped in on that, so the counties, I mean.
We've had a lot of cities and
counties in the state of Florida
get sued, and there really wasn't no recourse at the time. They were kind of just letting it go through because there was issues on the websites, and there's things we can do better to improve the accessibility. But now having them have an interest in that community or in that municipality is significant. So,
do you have enough now from us to come up with a policy and come up with a proposal that we can then vote on next meeting or whenever, you think?
Is that something you want to vote on? We had talked about verbatim minutes. I think all of you have agreed you like the closed captioning idea.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
We can bring it to the board?
Yeah, so we'll send out another summary email to you guys to let you know what we've decided, how many we're going to keep, what the costs associated, because they may not be over the threshold to come to the board, but we'll keep you guys informed, and we'll also let you know once the closed captioning is in place and when that effective date will start for the verbatim minutes.
Because what's Chrissy going to do with all her extra time?
She's going to be making those PDF documents accessible and creating templates.
Do you want us to bring that back to the board as a resolution? I mean,
it's not necessary. If it's necessary, fine. But if it's not, I don't see any reason.
Well, I just want to say if it's under the threshold, I'd still like to have you talk to us about.
Absolutely.
Because nothing makes me madder than it's under the threshold.
We'll keep you informed for sure. And just to recap on the question on the kitchen, it's $700,000 what we spent so far.
We paid $7 already?
Correct.
So we still got another $300 to go or something?
Roughly, yeah.
Give or take?
Yeah.
So you guys are going to come back to us with your recommendations, we're going to discuss it, and then we'll turn it to a resolution? Is that what we said? No.
We don't have to formally have a resolution for it, but we can bring it back to you with full communication about what our recommendations are to remediate this.
Okay.
We can just have it as a discussion item? I mean,
Sure.
or we can do it through email?
At this point, we're just going to send you an email saying, here's how long we're going to do it, here's the cost that we're projecting to get all these required documents, and if it comes in at, I don't know, if it's pretty inexpensive, $5,000 to get this done, and we can do some more budgets and financial statements and board agendas, then we'll probably do that, and we'll push it as much as we can within the budget.
I mean, I think that makes sense. Get as much as we can.
So we're going to try and do as much as we can. We're going to meet the minimum requirement, but we're going to try and put more on there if we can within a certain amount. I'm not going to go and spend $25,000 either to have every budget on there right away. That would be your decision on that one.
So we'll send you our recommendation along with the cost.
Okay. Public comment? Okay. Add-on item?
None?
Petitions and communications?
None?
Staff reports?
Good morning. Ooh, is this on? Yep. Okay, so mine's just really quick. I just wanted to let the board know that we would be hosting the Trick or Trot 5K again this year. It's going to be held on October the 18th. This year we are actually doing it in conjunction or as a partnership with Advent Health as part of their Heartland Race series. So what that means for us is Advent Health is basically coming on more or less as a sponsor. They're providing like refreshments, the healthy snacks and drinks and stuff for the event, some help on the day of. They've met with me to kind of go over some of their best practices with Heartland Race Series, as well as some advertising and promotions. So the Heartland Race Series actually runs for an extended amount of time and includes, I think, about 8 races for that fall under Advent Health that are around the entire community. So our race is being advertised with their series. So that's just one change from last year. So
Next.
Morning. A couple things. I wanted to compliment the staff, all the staff, but particularly my staff as far as hurricane prep for Dorian and all the stuff that goes into that. Even though nothing really happened with it, there is a lot that has to be done in prep for it, and the guys did really well. It's a adjustment to their hours. Obviously, we were out a couple of days, and then they had to work a little bit over ahead of that and behind to get set back up for golf. But everybody in the club, but my staff in particular, I was happy with how they responded to that. So trees, I know I sent out a communication to Cliff and Tanya to just make them aware of kind of where we were in the process for the fall. We had talked about a couple of board meetings ago about going ahead and getting some trees out, which we did, mainly dead trees over on deer. There were 2 or 3 on turtle as well. That's all been done. Stumps have been ground. We've been working in-house on a lot of pruning and lifting of trees, both for playability, but for tree health, and to make sure that as my staff go through trying to mow rough and things like that, we're not clipping the tops of the mowers with the tree limbs. So we've been working on that in depth on deer, and now we're doing the same on turtle with it being closed. I had brought up a particular tree on hole number 11, deer, because it's a big water oak that's on the inside of the dog leg there on 11. It's a pretty key tree to that hole. I know years ago there was a report done by an arborist that said that tree was diseased and had some issues, and so at some point the club made the decision to plant a live oak tree in front of it and also a live oak tree behind it in prep for, I guess, keeping the integrity of that hole once the tree had to come out. We lifted 3 large limbs off of that tree, just again trying to take some stress off of, some weight off of the way that tree is, because I guess years ago in one of the storms, the center of that tree kind of broke out, and if you look at it, you can see the thinness in the center of it. When we were over there pruning on it, I actually climbed up in the tree, and you can look down in the center, and it's pretty hollow. So I had told Cliff and Tanya that my recommendation for it is, because of the location of where it's at, and a lot of people play golf up underneath that tree, park their carts, hit shots out from under there, that in my opinion, we should look at removal of that tree, even though I know it would be a hot topic with some people. I just think it's the liability of knowing that the tree is hollow in the center is we need to look at it. So I wanted to bring that up to the board to make everybody aware. So that's kind of where we are on trees. We will, once the budget rolls, we will schedule the tree company to come back in October to take out some more dead trees. There's a couple of pines, one on the driving range, one up near the green on number 1 deer that's yellowed out that I know are going to need to come out. So we'll make another round of removal on trees that are diseased or dying. And then we'll be done pretty much for the season. So the goal is just try to get everything cleaned up and out of there before season. So we talked last board meeting about the driving range mat. That will start on Monday. The actual work on the range itself will start on Tuesday, but deliveries, all this stuff will start showing up out there on Monday. We're going to do some sod cutting and stuff in prep to reuse some sod in some areas around the golf course that we can. That should, barring any weather issues, which I know we have a system right now that they're watching, but barring any weather, we should be wrapped up and finished with that on Friday of next week. So okay, I think that's all we got.
Discussion, guys?
I have one comment. I just think, so you're coming to us to ask us to remove a tree that's diseased and poses a possible lawsuit, right? I mean, if the tree falls on somebody, we're going to be in big trouble.
I'm just trying to communicate with the board that we need to remove the tree, and I wanted to get any comments or feedback before we go take the tree out, and then everybody says, what did we do? Why did we do it?
If it's damaged and it causes a threat to the public, I don't think there's a choice.
I would agree with you. I think it's a liability issue, but I still have to communicate it to you guys to make sure that everybody's aware of what we're doing, because it's a tree that is key to the whole. And when I first started here almost 2 years ago, I took a tree out on number 5 Deer that was along the cart path. That was an old magnolia tree that was severely diseased, and I did it without communicating to the board, and I took heat for it. So moving forward, I will not remove trees unless I communicate it to the board, unless they are 100% dead. This tree is not dead. It could live for another 5 years. It could split today with the wind being windy outside, and knowing that the tree is hollow in the center, my recommendation, BCG's recommendation, is to take it out. But I still need to communicate that to you guys in case there's somebody that has an issue with the removal of the tree.
I'll vote to take it out.
I should note that this is the third one that we've had. There was one on number 2, if I remember correctly, right in front of the green, that did exactly the same thing, and there was one on number 9 that did exactly the same thing. So I don't think we don't have a choice. However, I would have to agree with you, discretion is the better part of valor when you start taking out monument trees particularly. So I'm certainly in favor of doing it.
We do have and I think I mentioned it in my communication to Cliff and Tanya, we do have 3 or 4 other water oak trees on the property right now. One is behind number 2 green on Deer on the right-hand side that the center blew out years ago. That tree is not far from 11 as far as priority on what we need to look at. The reason I haven't brought it up is simply because people don't park up under it. They don't play golf up under it. The one on 11, because of how much traffic plays under that tree, I just think it's something that we need to do. So I wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page.
I want to mention there's a diseased water oak right next to the parking area of the district office employees. And that water oak, we've had our eyes on it, and that one is severely diseased as well. Actually, there's more than one water oak there. There's 2, right?
There's 2 that are right where staff parks under. One also happens to be adjacent to the building and to the air conditioning unit. So
we're looking at those as well.
I don't see any reason not to take them out. I will say this, if you take one out, you ought to plant 2.
Absolutely.
You'll catch a lot less heat.
I won't do anything until we communicate that, but those trees as well are diseased.
You just did, as far as I'm concerned.
It's just the cost of it is.
We've talked about it. You need to do what you got to do. You don't want it falling on somebody. So,
the cost of them falling can be worse than the cost of taking them out.
Exactly. So, I would say do it.
But I would suggest that when we're particularly monument trees on the golf course that affect play, it sounds like in this one we were planning in advance. That would be the key, is what can we do to minimize change? I mean, we were a bit extreme at Pebble Beach when we moved an 85-foot cypress to the 18th to replace a pine tree that died, but it can be done. So if it's necessary for the whole, look for solutions that can.
I agree too. If it needs to come out, you need to do it. But my only concern is, when did you know that this thing you were going to ask us to tear it down? Because I got an email last night, and you bring it to the board today. I mean, did somebody tell you not to share it with the supervisors, or?
No, not at all. How it came about is there was a report done years ago, I think, by Crossan and Payne.
Yeah, I was here.
And that's, I think, when you guys chose to plant the other trees and prep for it. When I met with Crossan and Payne last year, we talked about that tree. We talked about the trees behind 2 Green. We talked about several other trees around the property that we needed to do some stuff to. There's another water oak that's on number 4 Deer that, again, had the top blown out of it. All those, from certified arborist standpoint, they recommend, just for the fact that the tree's never going to be a healthy tree as it should be with a central leader, their recommendation is you take them out. But they also don't have any skin in the game as far as playability to the hole or how it affects golf or any of that type stuff. So, and being that I think over the years maybe trees were left or we didn't do some of the pruning that should have been done, we talked about that when we started our tree program a couple of years ago, that we had some catch up to do. So we knew the tree had issues. When we went around and we were somewhat getting ready for Dorian, and we were looking at, is there anything we need to do? We also had deer closed down. We were doing some pruning on the left-hand or right-hand side of hole 16 on the interior, lifting trees up. I wanted to get to the tree over on number 11 and have the guys lift it. We did. It just so happened when we were over there, we had taken some limbs, and I was over there like trying to decide what other limbs to take off of it to try to reduce some weight on either side, that I climbed up in the tree. This is maybe 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, and looked down in the center, and the center is essentially hollow. So at that time, I talked to Tanya and Cliff and said, hey, we need to maybe think about that tree. We talked about it a little bit internally. But I brought it up, which I do pretty much anything that's going on the golf course, I bring up with the Green Committee, and we had a meeting on Tuesday, and I just mentioned in the meeting, I said, we've been doing pruning around the golf course. We had the trees taken out on number 5 deer, yada, yada, yada. And I also brought up the tree on hole 11, and I said, that's one that I'm going to take to the board because it's a tree there's going to be people that melt down over it being taken out. And so that's, I got out of the meeting on Tuesday, and Tanya and I rode out to 11, and I showed her the pruning that we had done. I showed her how the tree was light in the middle and let her know that I would be sending her and Cliff a recommendation to take the tree out. So.
Okay, I just wanted to, 2 of us supervisors found out from the golf committee that we were going to have to take that tree out. And I don't think that's the way we're supposed to do stuff.
Well,
I really don't.
Here would be my comment to that is I'm charged with communicating at a high level to the golf committee, which I do.
Yeah, but first to the supervisor.
Had this meeting been Friday or Tuesday, I would have communicated to you guys first. It just so happened that the Green Committee meeting was on Tuesday, and I knew it was something I was going to bring up, so I brought it up to the committee.
Well, it's trivial, Cliff, but if you didn't know until Monday, that's fine that you told the golf committee. But it sounds to me like you've known for a week and a half or 2 weeks that tree was dead.
It's not dead.
Or it needs removing. Okay, and that's all I'm saying. It's forget what I'm saying, but I want you to communicate with the supervisors a little better, because I got an email last night that we were going to vote today to take it out, which I think we should, but that's not the greatest of communications that I know.
Well, then I think we need to have a discussion at a much higher level as far as what our role is communicating to the committees and to the board, because I'm told to meet with the committee, provide a report, and we sit for 3 hours talking about issues on the golf course, but yet I'm not supposed to communicate with them.
Well, no, you can do that.
But every time I do, anytime I've ever communicated anything to that committee and it's gotten out before I have a meeting with the board, I get called to the carpet for poor communication, and I don't think that's fair, because I think I'm communicating at a high level with that committee, which I'm charged to do. And if I'm not supposed to do that, then my question would be, why do I take the time to provide reports, put them together, put it on paper, and sit with that committee if I'm not really supposed to tell them anything?
You wouldn't be having this discussion had you sent the email you sent last night, yes. Monday night.
Yeah.
And that's the issue, I think, is you got to...
So when do I make the call on what I communicate ahead of time or I don't?
We're not going to... This isn't the proper format to sit here and argue about it. We can talk to Cliff, we can talk to you, but you just need to, it's embarrassing that we're responsible, okay? That's what you need to hear.
And I would counter that I think we need to look at it differently as a board. I think the golf course, although we have the final say on major things that happen on the golf course, I think we need to rely on the Green Committee to have the information. And if they have concerns with some of the things that come up with the Green Committee meetings, I think it's appropriate for them to talk to us on the board, and we can discuss it at the next board meeting. But I don't think we should be making it difficult for Mr. McMinn to deal with the Green Committee. I think that's where most of the decisions on the golf course need to start, and the big ones need to come to us.
I think everybody would agree with that. The only issue is you get an email last night for something that he's known about for I think if I'm hearing you right, that you've known for 2 weeks and you talked to them about on Tuesday. That's all we're saying. It was no more difficult to write the email last night than it was Monday.
Talking about his email? The one that Earl sent out?
Yeah, one we got last night.
I forwarded.
Why don't you tell him why you sent it out? You sent it out because I said I was going to say something today. I was at the golf committee meeting. He brought it up at the golf committee meeting saying he had to bring it to the board. I said, you got to bring it to the board over a diseased tree? He said, yes, I have to. It's the right thing to do. But I said, well, I think it's ridiculous. He says, well, I'm not sure I'm going to mention it yet. I says, well, I'll bring it up on Friday if you don't. That's why I think he sent the email, because he knew I was going to say something about it. So I don't think you blame him. He's trying to do what's to make everybody happy, and it can't be done in this place. It's a diseased tree. What in God's name are we dealing with, whether we want to take it down or not? Why is it even coming to us?
Because it's a monument tree on the golf course, and it's not Billy Casper Golf's golf course, it's Sun and Lakes, and they shouldn't be making the decision to take out a monument tree without everybody's approval.
It's a diseased tree.
I understand that. I just said I think we ought to take it out. It's an issue of communication for me. I guess is that what you're saying?
It's understood. Moving on. The renovation project. Bill and I were actually today running TV wires and Cat5 cable for the point of sale. So, and that in prep for drywall going up Monday. So drywall, and I think the dust wall will probably come down a week from today, next Friday. Also, you'll see as early as today, it may not be today, I think probably Monday or Tuesday, the outside, the stucco on the outside, that'll be applied real soon. So all these little details are starting to happen, and we're kind of getting to that point where we're just making all sorts of little last minute decisions to get her done. It looks like we're going to be right on time, maybe a day or two late, but I'm not worried about the wedding anymore at all. So we're going to be just fine. The kitchen, the refrigeration has been the custom built refrigerators, the big custom freezers. They're in. We still have a few little issues with the freezer that we tried to reuse. I'm having to do some changes in some of the flooring, but I'm fixing that problem. So that's happening. Some of the real big stuff, the hood for the banquet kitchen and the hood for the dishwasher, that's starting to get in today. So some big stuff. So you'll start seeing equipment showing up. Well, it started showing up really this week. So equipment starts showing up. Chairs and tables will be here the last week in September. So we're kind of doing fine now. It's they've really stepped up and really got back on schedule. I'd like to schedule one-on-one meetings with everybody next week with me and Tanya to just some of the final details and just to let everybody know. I just don't think this is the forum to kind of talk about menus or talk about kind of colors and last-minute decisions. But please come and talk to Tanya and I. And if you have any input about the menus, because it's near completion. But if there's, I just want you guys to see it. And if there's anything you want to add, I just want to get your input before I go final with menus. And we'll do a tour, and we'll walk through everything, and I'll go through kind of where we're at with everything too. So please call me. Let's schedule something middle of next week, and let's go over that stuff.
I thought you were going to bring the menus to us. No, isn't that what we talked about?
I think we were supposed to get a look at them. I guess we can do it individually.
Wouldn't we be better to see it together?
You can only do that in this meeting or next meeting if he's not prepared to do it.
I mean, I don't have it with me now. I didn't. I mean, I just didn't know if we were hashing that out in a public forum. That's all.
Well, we had discussed it, that you would bring it to us.
So, I messed up.
I'm okay seeing it one-on-one, and if there's any issues, we can bring it back to the board.
Yeah, I would like to suggest that we get some input from the members and the residents. I'm not big on cram downs.
Well, I mean, the menu's a working document. You know, it's not like it's set in stone. So
it can be adjusted as
I
time
mean,
goes by.
yeah, it's really a computer program that I purchased. You know, if you know we would be changing it seasonally anyway. Really, every 3 months you kind of review your menu and you look at the things that don't sell, or if you have things that are moderate sellers, either you decide to get rid of them or you fix them to make them better sellers, and you make some changes, and you do it with seasonal products but you kind of evaluate all the time. If there's something we want to add, I mean, it can be done in a day. I mean, it really can.
I don't think we're looking to add stuff, are we? We're just
looking
to see it.
Well, but you don't know whether you want to add anything until you see it.
Yeah.
Right, and you know,
And menus are more complex than you think. I mean, whether it's, you know, and we can talk about that. I mean, we really have two segments of folks here. We have our year-round people and you know, the members and residents that are here all the time, and we think that they want good continental food that's fairly priced, but they want things that they're kind of familiar with, whether it's, you know, steaks and pasta and burgers and upscale sandwiches and things like that. But then we have our other people who are the tourists who come here, and our part-time residents, the 3-monthers and the 6-monthers. They're from Ohio and Michigan and Ontario. When they come down here, they want a lot of seafood. They want Florida seafood that they're not able to get up there. So that's what the menu's around. It's trying to really kind of hit both those segments, our full-time people and our part-time residents. So
why don't you just send us copies of it so we can get a look before we meet with you?
You got it.
Be easier.
You got it.
I still think it would be a good idea to ask people what they want, because we got people driving right past that restaurant every day of their life to go to Cody's or wherever they're going, because either we don't have what they want or we're much higher priced or whatever. So I mean, if you don't ask the question, you're not going to get the answer.
Well, but a lot of that in the past is just because we haven't been accommodating enough. We've been closed a lot, and
Dan brings up a good point. Unfortunately, we've waited so long that there's no time, because you're opening up in 3 weeks, right? Or 2.5 weeks. So maybe, to Dan's point, maybe after 60 days of using your menu, whatever it is, then we send out a critique of the menu to the people living here and hear what they have to say at that point.
What else you want?
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
I don't think we have the time up front. I think, but we can catch up later.
I'm good. Whatever.
I just
think if you don't ever ask the question, you don't ever get the answer.
Admittedly, it's all a big educated guess on our end.
Or the answer you get is, I ain't paying that for that. You know,
yeah, so. I mean, we could even put out our communication cards that if they want to make suggestions on the menu, I mean, here's our new menu. What do you think? Is there anything missing? What do you like? What do you like?
Yeah, the menu will certainly go out in the next newsletter.
And
both the resident and the member newsletter.
And, you know, get some feedback that way from the.
And we can have those communication cards right there in the restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how long it would take to send out an email blast just saying, what do you want to see in the restaurant?
We can administer that, yes.
That's good.
I don't know if you have time to do it now or not, but whatever. If not now, later, for sure.
We want
Well, it knows
the
we
board
can
to see
change
the
it.
menus first and then discuss that. But, I mean, if we need to wait a couple months, I mean, I don't know about the timing. Cliff and I can talk about
Do
it.
it like 6 weeks after the opening, because that way all the people from up north will be down here. You'll get a better response, I think, than doing it now with just the summer people here.
That's true.
But I think like Cliff has said, I think menus change, and you know, we can say we want this on the menu, but if it doesn't sell, you're going to take it off the menu. So menus adjust based on what the customer wants.
They change a lot.
The customer is always right.
Okay, thank you.
Can I go to another subject? Sure. So I got this thing, an email from you on the Scramble tournament, the Veterans tournament.
Okay.
I mean, it's already out in print, so there's not much I can say, but I think I'm very disappointed in it, I can tell you. Asking people to pay $55, non-members, and they get lunch, golf, a tea gift, whatever the hell that is, and we're only donating $10 of it to the veterans. That's the reason that we dropped the other guy, because the amount of money we were giving to the veterans was so small. We were asking for, we collect a lot of money and then we give out very little to the veterans.
Well, tell me if I'm wrong, but that isn't the direction that I was given. I mean,
I'm sorry, direction as far as what?
from the board itself. I mean, so we have taken over. So as a club, we have taken over the Veterans Tournament from the Veterans Committee. Okay, so the Veterans Committee is no longer running it. Well, the issue with the Veterans Committee is we have some certain low levels. I don't know if it's the right way to say it. Minimums that we can charge actually for golf tournaments. Now, at that minimum, and then I put prizes on top of that, and I put food on top of that, and I put a donation on top of that, that comes to $55.
All right, let me go this way. You're asking the members, you're asking me to pay $35. My lunch is going to cost $15. That's $20 left. You're going to give 10 to the Veterans Committee, and you're going to pocket 10 off of me. Off
$10,
of all the members.
and then 10. I pocket. The only pocket that I take from you is what little profit I would make on the food. The other thing goes all to prizes, and I'll make a few bucks on the prizes, but I will not. I won't make anything on cart or revenue. Everything will be paid back. Everything will be paid back, less that $10 donation. Everything will be paid back to the member.
How much is lunch? $50?
$15.
$15. I'm paying $35. My golf is free. I already paid for that.
$35. $10 donation.
At least
$10 for prizes.
$10 for prizes.
$10 for prizes. 15.
This is supposed to be a.
You're going to get a tea. Everybody gets a tea gift. Everybody gets a tea gift.
Right.
You got to make an event special. You got to make an event where it's.
The idea is to get money for the veterans. That's what makes it special, right?
And there's also a free beverage cart going out that day. Okay, so you're not just so if you're drinking beer, soda, or water, you're not being charged for any of that. So if you add that in, I mean,
Sponsor signs 2 years ago were $50. Now they're $100.
Well, I'm just telling you what we're giving. Andy asked me to help him out a little. I've talked to Tanya, and she was all right. We are doing a beverage cart.
All I'm saying is, it's in
they're
print.
giving a little more back than you thought. So
It's in print. It can't be changed. I'm just saying I'm disappointed in it. It's got Sun and Lake's name on it.
Okay.
I don't know that normally people would say how much goes to the charity anyway. I don't know if that's comparable to what other people. You really make money on the sponsor signs. Well, you don't make money.
Exactly.
So if you get out and sell a bunch of sponsor signs, that's what will go to the veterans.
But at least we're doing something for the veterans also. Nobody else is doing it. Sun Lake's the only golf course that's doing a tournament for the veterans and to give back to them. Right? So.
Are you going to sell tea signs? Are you going to
Yes,
sell
yeah.
peace signs? So
Yes, we are.
all of that money will go directly.
We've already got some sponsors that said they were on board already with us. I've talked to Andy. And, and I also hit all the supervisors up for a sign every year, so I'll be hitting you guys too.
I got a couple in my garage.
You got them.
I got one too.
Can you bring them to my...
That was put in my yard.
Can you put it? Well, can you put them in my yard and I'll put them up?
Mine's in little tiny pieces, so you can't use mine.
All right. But at least we are giving back, and they're trying. So I don't think that they should get beat up for that. All right, is it my turn?
Yeah.
All right, I think it's my turn. I had 989 watch orders, 193 code enforcement violations that we had to write up for everyone this month, and we did over 400, and usually I don't tell you this, we did over 400 miles of roadways that we mowed last month. So I just want to, give you an idea of what we're doing. And we got some inspections coming up from the state of Florida at our sewer plants, so we've been working on that. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mike? Okay.
No questions? Thank you. Who's next?
Is that it?
General counsel.
All right.
General counsel's report?
Yeah, the shade meeting stuff. Oh, okay. Not much to report today. The Unit 12. I think I mentioned at the last meeting, the Unit 12 foreclosure is completed. Sale date is scheduled for December 4th. There's been some discussion about a potential shade meeting so we can discuss, what bid amount we're willing to go up to. I did a little bit of research, and for a shade meeting to be allowable, it has to be pending litigation, can't be anticipated, but pending litigation where the district is currently a party before the court. So technically, since final judgment's been entered, the case is concluded, the actual litigation case itself is concluded. So my recommendation would probably be not to have a shade meeting, but to have some other sort of potential special meeting very close before the day of the sale, so that we can have a public discussion about what we're going to, where we want to stop our bidding at. We'll have up to a $2.7 million plaintiff's bid that we can give, but we don't have an obligation to bid up to that full amount. And what we need to decide is if we're trying to find people that are be interested in bidding, because it's going to be a very narrow field of people that can do this, because you're required at the time of the bid, once the bid is concluded, you have to pay 5% right then and there. Otherwise, it goes to the next highest, or the next highest bidder, and then you have to pay the remaining balance by 4 o'clock that day. So, whoever can come, let's say that we, just to throw a number out there randomly, let's say that we decide that, we're going to stop bidding at $1 million. And so if someone bids, $1.1 million, they're going to have to pay 5% immediately, and then the remainder by 4 o'clock that day. So there's not a lot of people that are going to be able to do that. So the discussion that we need to have is where does the board want us to stop bidding and say, yes, if we get, if a bid goes over this amount, we're going to let the land go for that amount. And, my recommendation is that that's the process we take, because right now the land doesn't belong to the district. It still belongs to the defendant, and the best case scenario for the district is for the land to never enter our hands. It'll go directly from the foreclosed party to the new owner. So that would be my recommendation, is we pick a date. I don't know if it's the day before, but we have a special meeting, shouldn't take more than an hour, and have a discussion about what we're going to bid. And then, I'll go to the foreclosure sale the next day and bid that amount. Other than that, y'all got my email about what I have. I've got some medical issues going on at home. The next board meeting will probably be bringing an amendment to the contract. For lack of a better description, basically what we'll be doing is I'm currently employed by Mr. McClure's firm, and I'm going to become more of an independent contractor. So the only thing that's really going to change as far as the contract, the proposal is, the only thing that's going to really change will be the name. All the other terms and conditions will remain the same, and nothing else. This should be a really seamless transfer, because nothing else is going to change. It's not going to go. I'll still be Mr. McClure's office, and staff will be the same. No other changes. So that'll be at the next board meeting.
I do have a question for you. On the foreclosure, assuming someone else did purchase it, I guess they wouldn't necessarily have to keep the same land use.
Correct. Once it belongs to them, they can do whatever they want. And in fact, the best use of that land might be to vacate the plat and to have it replatted. It just kind of depends on who the bidder's going to be. The lots as they're designed now are smaller lots. I don't know that you could, build. They're basically mobile home lots.
Yeah, it would basically be the highest and best use the way it's platted would be an extension of Tanglewood because they already have all the infrastructure there. But, at some point in time, you're talking about pretty good size acreage that could be whacked into lots or whatever. So that would be a consideration in our thought process as to what we should bid or not bid. Do we want that to continue or not? Do we want an extension of Tanglewood or?
And the other consideration is there is still, basically $500,000 outstanding to county taxes. Right. So whoever ends up with the lane is going to owe that. So.
Okay. Further questions? Okay. General Manager's report.
Good morning, Supervisors. I want to thank staff for all the work and preparation that we went through for Hurricane Dorian. We did go through Irma. We lost a lot of trees. Our utility operations were strained, and so we were very worried. And I will say I was one of those. But I want to thank staff for all the preparation: golf course, roads, maintenance, utilities, finance. Everyone pitched in for that. So. I want to mention from my email yesterday, World Design Marketing. We have a proposal from WDM on the marketing plan for the district. It includes the entire $75,000 that was budgeted within the general fund. The focus of their plan is during the winter season here at the district. And we've incorporated digital display advertising, keyword advertising, and billboard advertising here within Highlands County. And the reason for the focus of the winter months is, number one, with the digital and targeted display, you're targeting those that are in the northern states during those northern months. Okay, that's number one. Number two, with the in-market display, with what we have here in the county, we just have more residents during that time of year. And so their focus was during the winter months for the district. And if you need a copy, I'll be glad to give that to you today, and we can discuss it next week if you have any questions. The committee met this week to talk through, some of the marketing plans. So
I would assume that the billboard would include significantly golf-driven advertising so that we get more golfers coming in. It's not only residential, but also driving golfers to come to our course as opposed to going to wherever.
Highlands Rangers, yeah, absolutely.
Were you able to clarify that they're talking physical billboards as opposed to...
Physical billboards, yes, sir. Yep.
I have a few questions. I read it real quick last night. Maybe this is not maybe we should wait and do it. Everybody read it and do it next time. I don't know. You want to discuss this now?
If you got any questions now, I think this is a good time. If you have questions now, this is a good time.
Well, we're missing 4 months. I don't know how you can put together a marketing plan that's only 8 months. I've never heard of it. So my first question would be why didn't we do a full year?
I think the best answer to that is budget and focus. So the focus is to get the bulk of the marketing done during the peak season when it's going to be the most effective. If it is truly effective, and one of the things about this is it is a month-to-month agreement. So if it's not working after 5-6 months, we can say, goodbye, it's not working. If it's working really good, they can come back to us and say, we need to spend more money because we're getting a great response, and we can adjust the budget. But the budget is $75,000. Putting the focus on the months that are key is the best expenditure of the money.
So we're saying that May, June, July, and August are not key months.
I'm saying if you entice people to come down here in May, June, July, and August, and they sweat to death, and they say, I don't want to live here, that's not good marketing.
And if I may just add, so April, May, June, July, August, September, it's not that we're doing nothing, we're doing less. So we have moved to more of digital. You'll see that the in-market targeted display and the retargeting is going to be happening throughout the year.
There's no, the numbers then don't add up numerically. I mean, you've got 93.75 for 8 months, 75. You got to have a 12-month budget. If we don't plan this thing out for 12 months, it's going to fall on its face. It is. You don't have a chance in hell. But if you guys feel comfortable with doing that, fine. I mean, I'm not going to keep spending. I mean, I won't vote to keep spending money if we're not going to do it right.
I mean, we could spread the payments out 12 months, but with the bulk of the expense.
Maybe the budget number is wrong. We said that from the very beginning, that we're trying to fit a marketing plan to a number instead of doing the marketing plan the correct way. If we don't do the marketing plan the correct way, I don't think it has a chance in hell of succeeding. That's only based on my experiences, but that's fine.
Maybe I didn't understand the email, but I thought it was a 12-month deal. The price to them is focused on the 8 months, but you're still going to have the digital marketing going, correct?
That's correct. So if on this, and I think Tanya may have some copies too, for April, May, June, July, August, and September, there is money that's being allocated to do in-market digital ads. And in-market doesn't necessarily just mean Highlands County, it means Florida.
$750?
You'd be surprised. Digital goes a long way. It's not as expensive online as it is to put up a physical billboard panel and have a panel produced and pay for the space on highway or some sort of frontage to put up a billboard. It's digital is substantially less, which is why during those months when really the entire state of Florida, it's not just Highlands County is experiencing less population, it's the entire state. That's why I think that WDM felt that digital during that time would be a wise spend of our dollars.
Let me ask you this: what exactly is panels? You got panels for $25,000.
Panels?
Yeah.
My understanding is that's like the actual piece, like that's the printed vinyl piece, if you will. Yeah.
Because we're spending more money on that than we are on digital, which supposedly is the most important thing.
Correct. It's not. I'm not saying one is more important than the other. The panel itself is vinyl that has to be.
The recommendation number 1 says our primary recommendations, blah blah blah, is to use targeted digital display advertising. So they're saying it.
Right. There's 12 months of that.
But we're spending more money on the panels than we are on digital.
That's just because there's a production cost that comes along with a 108-foot banner.
Okay. Let me ask you another question. What feedback do we get back that people are looking at this and might be interested? How do we know?
Like reporting from WDM?
Yeah, I mean, how does this work? I mean, are they going to say, hey, we got 7 hits and here's the names and numbers, or?
So what we will be doing is we're going to be setting up a separate email account. I think we maybe even talked about something to the effect of maybe inquiry at snldistrict.org. So when we put out advertisements, whether it be, I think we have some print, so when we put print out or if it's on the billboard, if you have a question, it's going to go to inquiry at snldistrict.org. Those emails will be linked to my account, and then my responsibility will say, okay, this clearly is with regards to golf. So,
I'm sorry, your responsibility, I missed that last part.
What was, if it's with regards to golf, then I basically bring Cliff in and say, hey, or I forward it to them for them to be able to follow up on Cliff.
So we're going to generate leads, basically. You're going to generate leads on different categories, and we're going to have to try and assess those leads.
They're all going to go through Aerial.
Right.
Huh?
They're all the leads are going through Aerial.
They're all going to go to Aerial. And you're going to do what with them?
Distribute them to whoever the proper contact is for that. So if it's, like I said, if it's golf related or if it's restaurant related, then clearly those are going to go to Cliff or whoever it is on his staff that he delegates as the contact person for those leads.
Well, you got to have one person. She can't be passing it off to whomever they're interested in. I mean, we should have one person running this whole thing. All the leads go to one person. The one person should have a job responsibility or a job description of what they're going to do with it once they get it and how they're going to report it to the district.
That's Ariel.
Is that not?
That's Ariel.
Ariel is the one person. So Ariel will get all of the inquiries. They all go to her. She then has the responsibility to make sure they get answered by the correct person.
But she's supposed to be there should be one person.
She can't answer every inquiry because she's not the best one to do that. If somebody is interested in booking golf, they're not going to go through Ariel to do that. Ariel's going to have Andy or whoever get back to them to find out what they want to know about golf and how we can set them up. If they're interested in knowing more about the restaurant, then they're going to go to Cliff or whoever he assigns to do that.
And passing off probably isn't the best term. It's more like a concierge. She's still going to be involved during that process.
What are we trying to accomplish here?
So our main accomplishments is more memberships and more house sales. Is
well, if they're coming from outside of Florida, it's not just memberships. I mean, they're going to need to live here, right?
Right. So the goal would be get them down here, get them acquainted, maybe try and come up with a stay and pay plaque package, or book them at a hotel.
And that's my point. And who's going to arrange that?
We're starting to prepare all those arrangements now. We're starting to come up with an advertising plan for developers. So we'll have that in our bag where we have developers.
I'm talking about an advertising plan. What package are we going to give to the people who want to come down and visit us? What's the package?
That's what we're creating now. The golf right now doesn't cost us anything.
I'm sorry?
Theoretically. We could advertise it and come down, and maybe we can put down, they have to give us a $500 deposit, and if they actually come down and stay at the hotel and play 2 rounds of golf, and then they get 50% of that back at the end. We're trying to come up with
you're supposed to we should be putting together a package. Hey, come down and visit us for 3 days. We'll put, here's a discount at this hotel for 2 nights. We'll give you free golf, blah, blah, free dinner at the club or what have you. That's how you entice people to want to be, maybe be interested in moving here. I don't think it doesn't sound like we're ready yet. Not that you've done good with what you've done, but I think you got to be prepared to finish it off. And I don't think we're ready yet. I think starting this in October is a big boo-boo. Just my opinion.
It's not just your opinion. It's the same opinion I shared with staff, and they are working to get the implementation process in place before it launches in October.
Yeah.
But October's 2 weeks away.
Well, the problem.
That's right.
Go ahead.
So, we're working internally to make sure we understand who needs to take what calls, what we need to do for follow-up. So we'll have all those procedures in place.
Right. To your point, our biggest goal is attract them and get them here. So right now we're starting in October. We don't know whether that's going to generate 5 leads or 150 leads. If we get a lead that says they're interested, it doesn't take us much time to go to the Residence Inn, get a 2-night stay, figure out how much that costs.
What are you going to do? Somebody's going to call down and say, I'm interested. You're going to say, well, hold on. I'll get back to you in a couple of days. Let me make the arrangements.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have everything before. So when they call, you can say, here's the package that we can offer you. That's what I'm saying is I think you got to do a little bit more work before we start out. Here's the package. Are you looking for a golf package? Here's our golf package. If you're looking just for a residential package, here's our residential package.
So, anyways, we're working on it. We'll come back to you. Once again, we're coming up with, it's going to be tailored to 3 different items. It's going to be developer, it's going to be realtor base, and then there's one for stay and play. Those are the 3 main targets that we foresee coming in as leads. We need to kind of narrow down how we're going to address those leads when they come in.
My personal opinion is I wouldn't start this. I can't support this until I see a whole package that you guys have put together here. This is fine. And I'll go with the package if they all worked out. That's great. If you're comfortable with it, fine. Just finish it up. So give us the whole picture.
Do you want the printed materials that we have in place, that we would give a new resident? I mean, that's, when you say package, that's
I want
part
to
of
know
the
what we're
package.
doing.
I think he's looking for the full implementation plan in writing.
Don't you think? No? Is that asking too much?
No, it's not asking too much, other than it's not in place yet, and if we miss this window, it puts us at a disadvantage, because this is when we need to really be launching, because this is when people are looking to come to Florida. And staff has assured me they can put the plan together. I said I want to be sure that we're ready to implement it before we implement it. They're assuring me they can do that, and rather than wait until the next board meeting, I'd rather move forward.
I'm sure it won't be perfect, particularly when we first launch it, and you learn and you fix it. But
your concern is 100% correct, and that's the concern I raised with the committee.
You know, we've waited this long. Why? I don't want to do it and waste $75,000.
Yeah, but you don't.
3 months from now, everybody's going to go, it didn't work.
No, but if you wait for 3 months, it's not going to work either, because we're going to have missed a key window.
Well, the only thing I can tell you is this thing started out almost a year ago. So if we miss it, it's our own damn fault.
I don't disagree, and if you'll recall, a year ago I was the no vote and said we're putting the cart before the horse. We're trying to get the cart behind the horse as quick as we can, and still accomplish what the board wanted to do when we committed to going forward with the market.
I think we take some of the responsibility for the cart behind or in front or wherever it is, fooling around with whether or not we want the logo to look like this or say this, and that knocked you guys back at least 60 days. So.
Is the website up? Are we having the right website up yet?
No, not yet. They're waiting on a few items of photography from us, so they're waiting on us to finalize that landing page. I will, as soon as it's up, we will send a link. We'll send a link to the board, and then it's in my email from yesterday. It's livesuninlake.com. So the domain is down right now until we go live. So I checked it yesterday.
Does this closed caption have anything to do with this? No. So we're okay. We can go ahead with this, and don't worry, it's different.
Okay.
Okay. I've expressed my concerns.
That's all.
Unfinished business?
None.
New business?
None.
Committee reports?
No committee reports.
Since we don't have any committees, we won't have any reports. Public comment?
Bill Norcross, a resident. I'd just like to review the procedure that you went through on this monument tree type of thing, and I think that maybe this is not the venue to have it, but now it's in a public exposure. Okay, fine. Monument tree is something that's up there that 300 members, they look at it and they see it, and all of a sudden when they come back from up north and the tree is missing, they're going to go, what the heck is going on? Now, I just think that this is where it comes in as far as communication. Now, I was there when they had the golf committee meeting, and Earl had a excellent presentation of 11 bullet points that he's going to do. And he just happened to mention to us, so we have a problem with that tree. It's a big deal. Okay, fine. So now he was going to bring it up because he got a lot of heat from the other one. The other tree he took down. I understand that. Everybody does. But people that are going to be coming back are going to say, what the heck happened? So I think to soften this type of thing, you have to give a little public exposure. We're going to have to cut that tree down because there's disease and it falls on somebody, there's liability. Okay, fine. And as Dan says, let's replace one tree every time you chop down with two. Or a plan, we're going to take that tree down, but we're going to put another one to the other side to soften the whole idea. Because People are resistant to change. They park in the same parking space, they go to dinner, they go to the same spot, whatever. So, I'm just saying that in this type of thing, we're having monumental changes. You have a certain amount of exposure that you just should, fire an email, we're having a problem, expect to see no tree on 11, or no tree in the back or the side of the second hole. But this gentleman over here, Earl, has done a fantastic job. And if he fulfills all those 11 bullet points on his agenda, I tell you what, this golf course is going to be really fine. Thank you very much.
To your point, I believe that's what the golf committee exists to do, is communicate with the members.
To us.
Yes, Dan, I understand that. And then it was brought up, and as I say, there was a lot of heat. And to say 200 people are going to be coming down from up north, they're going to say, what happened? And they're going to come back at you.
Exactly.
Or you. Okay?
That's the whole point.
And at Swanson and Monza Drive, I just want to tell a little about, you guys know I've been here complaining about the water problem there. And I walked out my front door a couple months ago, and I look out, and there's this big freaking truck and this shovel, and I thought, oh boy, they're going to dig a big drain, and I'm going to have to pay $2,500 to have my driveway fixed. And I said, don't bother me. But next thing I know, I'm watching this guy, and the guy's an artist. He's digging a swale with a shovel. And when he got done, you couldn't have done it better by hand. Unbelievable. And then I'm sure this project had a lot to do with Mike, because I'm sure Mike didn't want to take 25 grand out of his budget when he could do it for $3. And I commend him for that, because I think there's probably $22,000 going to be used for very necessary projects besides an unnecessary one. I want to thank him for it. I appreciate what he did. I know we had some back and forth. I bitched a lot. He listened to me. He was nice about it. And now we've got a swale there. And now the next thing they've done, which I think is very good, is they've gone along and required people not to dump their crap on the next door neighbor's empty lot. So now when they come through with that mower, they can mow it, and it actually looks pretty good. The only little problem is if the grass gets too long, they leave a bunch of grass laying there, and that doesn't look good. But a little bit of rain, that takes care of that. So all in all, I think the things that I've seen done are all positive. When I moved here in 2013, the first thing I saw done was I was driving across to where the driving range is, and they'd put in new cement there. And I thought, first impressions are lasting impressions, and people come in and they have a bad time. For example, all this work that Earl's done on the course where he's gotten rid of all these palmettos and put in the pine straw. I can't imagine anybody coming here to play, unless they're really a good player, that doesn't get a bunch of balls in those palmettos. And if he loses 20 balls, you think he's coming back? No, I don't think so. And now you lose a ball, you get a ball in there, maybe you can't hit it out, but at least you'll find it. And I especially thank Mike, because I know he had a lot to do with this. Thanks.
Thank you.
It might have something to do with why people would rather play turtle than deer now. That didn't used to be the case. Robert.
Robert Kroger, resident. Just to get back to the marketing thing for a minute, I guess it's addressed to you guys. If somebody calls up right now and says, oh, I want to come down in November for 4 days, there's 12 of us, what do you have to offer them now?
All the golf patches, all the golf patches run through chicanes. So we really have, really 100% of our packages go through there. We tried to kind of get him to get his rate, but he just won't. Phil just won't do it. It depends on his occupancy and what time and when he, instead of. So on packages, I got to say I got to either refer him just right because he knows what our rates are. I can refer him right to Phil, or I can get back to that person. But that's.
So,
but right now,
basically, you tell them to call chicanes.
That's what I'm trying not to do.
Oh, okay.
So, But I can't get a price from Phil unless I call him because these prices are just not the same all the time.
The second thing is, once this marketing program gets going and things, what if you have people that want to inquire about what kind of houses and things are for sale up here? Who does that go to?
We haven't made that determination yet. We're working on that.
Okay. Thanks.
I would make the assumption it would go to the realtors that support Sun and Lake.
Craig Herrick, resident. If I understood it right, it sounds like your billboards are for Highland County? But primarily in this area where everybody already knows about Sun and Lake? It seems to me like if we're going to have a marketing strategy, that we should be going up north or to a lot of the southern places where people go during the winter and try to get them to come here. These people that you're advertising to already know about Sun and Lake, it seems to me. And if we're not doing anything outside of Highlands County or Polk County or around here, it seems like we're missing the opportunity to really grow. And I thought that's what we're trying to do. Opinion.
It's not Holland.
In part, we're also trying to grow membership, and the membership is going to be more from the Highlands, Polk County area than from down south where they might come up for a day or two.
But you also got a component that's digital on the internet, so you only got I forget total. There's not that much of it is in billboard. It's mostly clicks and that sort of stuff. So, and that's universal, but I don't think even the billboards aren't all in Highlands County.
No, they're not. And right now, actually, the locations that are on our marketing or media recommendation, it says locations TBD.
Right.
And even in their recommendation that they gave us, it doesn't specifically say that they'll all be in Highlands County. They haven't they haven't come to us and said exactly which one is going to be where just yet.
It's all pretty preliminary at this point in time, even though it is getting closer.
I have another question. I just noticed something here. It says here on monthly monitoring and reporting, digital reports for they're going to be every 3 months. What does that mean? It's under notes.
Yeah, that would be something that WDM would be providing to us. So my understanding is, based on my conversations with Susan, I want to say that they meet weekly. I don't remember if she said it was every Tuesday, or they meet on the accounts that they have, basically like a staff meeting. So they're meeting on this very regularly, but my assumption, just reading that note without getting specific clarification from her, would be that we would be receiving some sort of an actual report of how these are performing every 3 months is what that's looking like. Clearly, if we have questions before then, we can always go to them and ask them whenever. But
I understand that, but I mean, please do not take this the wrong way. It's strange that you gave us a piece of paper that can't be explained. You should know what that is. If you give this to me, and I ask you a question, somebody should have an answer what the hell that is. You guys gave it to us. I'm telling you, you guys got to get it ready. I don't think we're ready yet. And I would like to know one other thing, if I may. How often will you be reporting to the board on the progress of this plan? So we don't ask you every meeting or something. How often should we be expecting to see something?
As often as we receive our reporting, we will be glad to forward all that information to the board. I mean, it doesn't need to be pages and pages, but we have to be able to monitor this internally to know if it's working. And so, most of the statistical information could be clicks, but the main thing is the leads. And so we're glad to report that to the board in a monthly report through staff reports, absolutely.
So is that once a month?
That's what she's saying.
Okay.
That's once a month, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
I have a quick
How many
comment.
times are you going to comment?
Huh?
How many times are you going to comment? You don't get 3 minutes every time you decide to.
No, this won't take very long, believe me. This is the new brochure, 50% off. Is that in effect now? If I have friends that want to come down here, that everything is 50%.
No, that's
Okay.
new members. That's a new membership.
Exactly. I have inquiries. Okay, thank you very much.
You will see that, you will see that flyer in the utility bill that comes out next week.
Utility bill next week? Yeah, next week.
So you're going to see that flyer in there.
To and from board.
I have a couple of things, and I'm not sure what the process here is, but obviously we got the revised traffic study, and I'm not sure when we're going to discuss that, if that'll be a special meeting or one of the upcoming meetings.
Next meeting, right?
Next meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
I have her scheduled next meeting.
Okay, and then one of the among the things that are suggested there are things other than speed bumps. I don't know what it would take to get a study. One of the things I brought up at the last meeting was the curve on Cremona, which is literally a 90-degree curve. Can we do a study to determine whether or not that can be turned into an intersection? Do we have enough right-of-way to make that curve at East Cremona Court become a three-way stop? Or is that a big expense? Obviously, there's an expense in doing it, but can we even determine whether or not it can be done as a solution? Because I think I had 2 close calls on meeting cars there just this past week. So, it truly is a concern because people cut that corner. And then
I guess Drew could do that. Could Drew do that? Yeah. Let's just do it.
When you put up stop signs, I mean, that's stuff.
Well, you don't want to put up stop signs until you change the intersection.
Yeah, we have to look at what he's talking about.
Right.
Do we have enough space for it?
From that Cremona where
It would seem to be that there's also a cul-de-sac in there, so I think we got plenty of space. So the only question is configuration. You probably have to take up some pavement, but yeah, I think that's a good idea. I don't have any issue with that at all.
And
it is dangerous.
And on a much bigger scale, one of the things that keeps going through my mind, particularly after I went back several months ago now, to look at the history of Sun and Lake, I'm not sure that we have a long-term plan. We have a 5-year capital plan, but do we have a vision for what Sun and Lake should look like 10 years from now or 20 years from now? And how can we best manage where we're going with Sun and Lake if we don't have a long-term plan for what Sun and Lake should look like? And it seems to me from what I've seen that for the last several years without a master developer, it's been kind of piecemeal. A developer comes in and wants to build something, or a person comes in and buys a house and wants to build something, but we don't have a long-term plan for a lot of the undeveloped areas of Sun and Lake. And I think we should be, as a district, looking at what that 10-year, 20-year plan is for where we want Sun and Lake to be.
we don't have.
We can't agree on 30 days, much less 30 years.
But I think we need to.
I agree.
I'm not sure the piecemeal is going to work for the long run, and we may be missing some opportunities by putting some development where it is if we've got bigger plans.
That's not a bad thought at all.
And I agree. We do not have a plan to that effect. Again, the county owns over 1,200 lots west of Cortez.
Right.
So they are, and those lots will sit as long as the county does nothing. And so there's no taxes received on their behalf, no assessments received on our behalf, and so it just sits. And that's a big, I think that's a big part of what Neil's talking about as well. There's no plan.
Yeah, and if we create that vision and that plan, it might help attract other developers who might come in and want to adjust the plan a little bit. But those are the kind of things that if we have the plan, we can zone for it and stop some of the hit and miss projects that are going. I think for me, it's difficult to not have a long-term plan for the development.
I don't disagree. We are a hybrid, though.
Yeah.
And we can't really do a whole lot without the county's buy-in and participation, so.
No, but we can tell them what we'd like to see, and they'll tell us if we can't do it. Like
That's
they
right.
did
We've already done that.
Been there.
That worked well on Unit 16, didn't it? We told them, didn't we?
You have anything else, Ray? That it, Neil?
Yeah.
Just one thing I have asked Tanya, and I guess Omar by extension, to do is once we get through the budget process, I would really like to see our cost accounting structured so that we know what it cost us to provide amenities. For example, we have numbers on the golf course / restaurant, and they're a little bit squishy because of allocations. And we always talk about, well, the golf course is losing money, or the restaurant's losing money, or the golf course is making money. We don't really get numbers on what it costs us to provide the pool, or the tennis courts, or any of the other recreation things that we're doing. So a lot of the residents are looking at us saying, you're spending money on the golf course, and they don't even think about it's costing us $200,000 a year to have this pool, or whatever that number is. So I would like us to, we got the roll-up, it's only a question, and you got all the numbers, it's only a question of putting it in the right format. I didn't ask them to do it now, because they've been involved in the other stuff. But I do think that's simple enough to do, and it would be beneficial that it was part of our package, that everybody could see it's costing us this to do that and this to do the other. Pretty much the golf course is break even, or even exclusive of capital requirements, making money. Cliff is, and the restaurant, Cliff, we beat him up a lot about not talking to us enough, but he's also in there, he's probably saved us $150,000 in that kitchen by the things that he has done. And if he hadn't been here, we would have built it just like they had it planned. Yep. So I do think we need to do a better job of making sure everybody understands where money's going and where money isn't going, and what we're doing. To your point, Ray, and as well, Neil, I don't think $75,000 is an adequate marketing expenditure. It was a number to use. If it's working, great. Let's double it, or whatever it takes. But I think we do have to have a pretty clear vision of what we want out of this. And, you know, the stay and play before got to be a great deal for the people that came and stayed and played, but I don't know that anybody bought a house here because of it. So
Mike did.
Yeah?
Mike did.
But that was the old one. I'm talking about the one that Kurtzborn was running. Yeah, that may not be the best point to make. But I would definitely agree with Dennis Swanson on that deal. I mean, that thing was initially set up to cost $25,000, and it cost us $2,500 or $3,000, and I think it's going to accomplish the same thing. Hopefully we don't get water across the street anymore, and that's also part of our permitting process, because people who built a house there actually covered up the swale. There was plenty of intake. We couldn't get to it. Water dammed up because these people built their house, their yard up too high, and it pushed it across the street into his yard. So we got to do a better job of making sure new construction, they understand Manor Hill drains from swales. It doesn't. There's not a whole lot. It's got to get into those intakes, or it's going to dam up. But yeah, I would agree with Dennis. That saved us $20-some thousand, as opposed to the sock pipe treatment and all that other stuff. That's all I had. Anybody else? Good to the cause. We're adjourned.